Hi, my name is Jennifer Ho, and I'm the Commissioner at Minnesota Housing. Thank you so much for joining us today. I understand we have a big crowd. And I'm really appreciative that you want to learn more about new rental assistance money that's available coming soon. You know, when COVID hit Minnesota, the country, the world, it hit different people differently. Some people lost work. Others, like me, worked from home. Others worked on the front lines. Um, you know, Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan put the evictions moratorium in place right away, understanding that there's some really good public health reasons for people to stay at home. We know that that evictions moratorium is going to end at some point, which is why I'm so grateful to the Congress for investing in rental assistance. We know the vast majority of evictions in Minnesota are caused by non-payment of rent. And we know that a lot of people haven't been able to pay their rent or their other utility bills during this very long year. And that goes for renters not being able to pay their bills, but when renters can't pay, the landlords oftentimes can't pay their bills either. So the good news is that help is on the way. I'm joined today by my Deputy Commissioner at Minnesota Housing, Rachel Robinson. So if you're here to learn about COVID-19 emergency rental assistance, you're in the right place. We're calling the new program RentHelpMN. So you'll be hearing a lot about RentHelpMN. So the whole point of today is for renters, we want you to get ready to apply. Help you understand what it is that you're going to have and what the doorways are for you to be able to apply for assistance. Landlords, same for you. What do we need you to gather and how can you help get an application in place? And for all the other helpers and advocates and local government entities and the media who are out there, thank you. Help us get out the word. I just want to touch base on a few housekeeping items for this webinar. First of all, you can add your questions in the YouTube chat, and we have folks standing by to read through those and help pull out some key questions when we get to the question and answer section of this session today. We'll hold your questions to the end, but once we get through this material, we'll take them right up until 6 o'clock. I hope that you can see Jasmine, our wonderful ASL interpreter. And if you click CC in YouTube, you could turn on the closed captioning as well. These slides that we use today are going to be available at our website, www.mnhousing.gov. And we're also going to have translations of this webinar available in Spanish, Hmong, and Somali, also available at our website. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, my deputy and the lead person on implementing this incredible new program. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you. I'm Rachel, and we are going to back up for just a moment and talk about the facts and talk about the federal bill. So in the federal stimulus bill that passed in December, Congress made $25 billion available across the country to help stabilize renters and rental markets. Almost 400 million of that funding came to Minnesota, to the state, to 7 local governments, and to 9 tribal nations. You may have heard that another $25 billion passed in the American Rescue Plan in March of 2021, and if so, that is correct. But we are waiting on information on that program, so can't say much at this time, except that the good news is that we're sure it's more funding to help more renters for a longer period of time. So into Minnesota Housing's program, the federal government, of course, made the funding available. But as Minnesota Housing and our partners in local government have set out from the beginning to create our programs so that they reach all who need the assistance. We have heard your feedback about the program we operated in 2020 called COVID-19 Housing Assistance Program. and have made improvements in efficiency and communication to renters and landlords for this new program, the RentHelpMN. These core values that you see here have been guiding us from the start in setting up RentHelpMN. First, that's to make the program human-centered, using strategies to reach those that might otherwise be left behind. To be anti-racist, using intentional strategies to not perpetuate racial disparities. To focus on the customer experience, the customer being the renter, to minimize stress and uncertainty. To be transparent, timely, and flexible. And to engage critical partners to equitable outcomes by working with groups that are led by and work for the communities most impacted by COVID. So before we move into more detail, one of the fun things we get to do tonight is introduce you to the website for RentHelpMN. This website is now live at RentHelpMN.org. That's RentHelpMN.org. As I mentioned, we're not quite ready to take applications, but we do have resources up on the site to help renters and landlords get ready to apply. I'll say more about these resources after I share more about the program. And once we go live, this website will be the place to get to the online application, and along the way, a great place for resources around RentHelpMN and our partners. So as we said, we are not open for applications yet. We're here to talk about getting ready. But when we are open, application, I'm sure, is very important to many of you listening today, and that access. So here's a quick overview of how you will apply for RentHelpMN. You will be able to apply through the website, RentHelpMN.org. And when RentHelpMN is ready to take applications, there'll be a button on that website, the RentHelpMN.org, that says Apply Here. You will be able to apply entirely online and upload documents, but we know that doesn't work for everyone. So if you prefer, you will be able to apply with a paper application, which you could download from the website or print, or you could request by mail from us. But right now is the time to get ready, to be prepared for when the application opens. And again, that will be soon. A bit more on the program, of course, who is eligible? It's important to note that this assistance is only for renters. Homeowners are not eligible per the federal rules. We know that homeowners are also struggling in the pandemic, and we hear you. We hope to know more about how federal stimulus dollars might help homeowners with mortgages and utilities soon. But from the federal government program, this program, RentHelpMN, it's for rent and renters only. COVID-19 impacts include increased costs, loss of work, reduced hours, and financial strain from caring for children while schools were closed, financial strain of health challenges, and other stresses of the pandemic. So when the federal government said to us, this program is for people who have been impacted by the pandemic, that's who we were talking about. The reality is that these circumstances are true for many renters right now. And that's why we are facing a crisis in being able to pay rent and feeling confident about paying rent going forward. The federal government also wants to help people facing housing instability. And that means either the renters at risk of eviction or of being forced to move, or that the renter isn't confident that they can make those rent payments in the future. Other pieces of eligibility, we know that it's hard to communicate income levels using acronyms. The acronym here is Area Median Income, and the program requires 80% of Area Median Income, or AMI. So here's a few tips to help you understand if you or a friend are within those limits. For instance, if you know that you access some government programs such as food stamps, MFIP, general assistance, and your income hasn't gone up recently, it's likely you would qualify under RentHelpMN. The same goes if you live in affordable housing where you income qualified for your apartment. Otherwise, to give you a sense of the numbers, talking an annual income, the lowest income, the income level that you would need to be within in the lowest income county in Minnesota, Aitkin County, would be one person at $40,700 per year. So below that would qualify. And in the metro, we have some of the highest incomes, and there one person would qualify below $54,950, or a household of 4 people living on $78,500. If you're on the edge of those requirements, we encourage you to call our support through 211 for help. And we will have more resources on our website soon. We certainly include these questions about eligibility in our frequently asked questions, as we are certain we know how challenging it can be to understand. And when applications open up soon, we do want to make the point we will invite renters who owe back rent to apply for RentHelpMN first. We want to start with those who owe back rent because we want to help those who are behind and at risk of losing their housing more imminently. We will open to renters who have future rent obligations and utility needs in the near future once we're confident that the backlog will be cleared of those with back rent. As we get into what is the assistance, it is emergency rental assistance, and it's tied to the pandemic. So the rules, some of them are federal, and we've taken an approach that is generally very flexible with RentHelpMN. The rent and utility payments can go back to March 13th of 2020. For most people, that means April 1st rent, since March 1st rent due would not be eligible. And past due months of rent and forward months of rent can add up to a total of up to 15 months of assistance per household. For example, if a household is behind 5 months, they will still be eligible for up to 10 more months of future assistance once we open for future assistance. The other ways that this funding can be used, to be clear, is for the tenant paid portion of subsidized rents. And there's a list on the PowerPoint that includes Section 8 public housing. For past due tenant paid utilities. For other housing expenses, generally think of categories that are tied to keeping a household stably housed, such as reasonable fees charged by the landlord. And housing expenses that are, and make it clear that these housing expenses can't be those that are covered by another program, but anything tenant paid that hasn't already been paid would be eligible. Renters who apply and who are approved would be processed for the maximum amount of assistance available to them, or what they request, whichever is lower. So we do encourage households to request assistance that meets their needs at the time that they come in for an application. And as I said, initially the applications will address that back due rent. And once we feel good about the backlog, we will open to households who need only assistance with future rent and/or utilities. One of the things we know we get lots of questions about is paperwork. And we have done everything we can do to minimize the paperwork requirements, but the rules are the rules with the federal government, and we do have to make sure to follow a few important policies. We are looking for some form of identification in our application. And that includes state IDs, tribal IDs, IDs from an international source. We just are looking for that identification of the head of household who's applying for assistance. We also need to confirm that your income is within the limits. If you file taxes, a 2020 1040 tax return is the fastest and most efficient way to get that income qualification completed. Or if you just have tax forms from 2020, like 1099s or W-2s, Those are very useful to bring to the application. And we can keep going, because if you can demonstrate your income with documents like pay stubs or receipts, other pay documents that you've received, whether in gig work or something your employer has provided to demonstrate your income, that can work. And we are set up to accept a wide variety of documents that demonstrate income. And in circumstances where an adult in the household truly has no income, you will be able to sign online that you have no income. And then the next bucket of information that we need is on your rent agreement. So we are looking for a piece of paper or a packet of paper that shows you have a rent obligation. So if you do not have a lease, you can talk to your landlord now in this get ready time about getting a statement of how much rent you pay and a statement of how much is past due. If you are living in a hotel and renting a room as your housing, we can help. You may need to work with 211 to figure out those right documents, but we are able to assist and to show that is your rental arrangement. Similarly, for manufactured homes, we are able to assist with the leased lots, as well as leased homes on owner or leased land. As long as there is a lease agreement, we really need to demonstrate you are a renter. And finally, to get payments made, we do need copies of your bills. And again, if you have past due rent, something you can be doing now is talking to your landlord about getting a ledger or a statement of rent due. And for utilities, tracking down those bills and collecting them so that they're ready to include in the application as well. Signatures are digital, but the documents do need to be uploaded. We can take cell phone pictures as documents. We can look at help for assistance scanning, but this is that time, this get ready time, where we are looking for you to get organized to submit a fully complete application. Something we always want to emphasize with this program is a complete application is the best application. It is not hard to get in line for this assistance. And so taking your time to collect the documents now, be ready, and when you apply, check everything twice and submit fully complete. The more complete it is, the less follow-up we have to do, and the faster we're able to move through and process an application. So we are working with Greater Twin Cities United Way and their 211 call line to provide assistance to people with questions. And this is a very robust amount of assistance. When you call 211, you will reach a highly trained service professional who can answer questions you may have as you get ready to apply. Once RentHelpMN is open for applications, 211 will be able to help answer questions that arise when you're applying. 211 offers assistance in many languages and offers accommodations. They can help you whether you apply online or on paper and mailed in. They are there to assist. Other support for application and applicants is available, and we want every eligible renter in Minnesota who is in need to get access to this RentHelpMN. We know that online applications don't work for everyone, and we get it, the documentation requirements alone can present a barrier. So we are doing everything we can with our partners to support renters to get access to this assistance. If you are comfortable with computers and have access to the internet, the online application is set up to be reasonably intuitive, but we really want you to get that application in and submitted so that we can work on reviewing it. So we have built that some support. Again, if you don't know where to start, call 211. If you need some assistance as you're applying online, you don't understand a question, you aren't sure if the documents you have meet the requirements, call 211. And our partners with local governments and the state in RentHelpMN have pulled together dozens of community organizations to take the time one-on-one with some renters needing culturally specific assistance or an extra push to get the materials together. You can start with 211 or go through your usual networks of support to get that much assistance, but we have built a program that has quite a bit of wraparound service because, again, we want every Minnesota renter in need to pursue and receive this assistance if possible. So I will move to some documents that are available on the website now and give you a preview. If you are able to access these at RentHelpMN.org, these are newly available today. So we have a Renters Get Ready checklist, which is shown here, and it's now available for download. This 2-page document has a list of the materials you'll want to start collecting now as you prepare to apply. And this checklist will encourage you to reach out to your landlord and get the most recent copy of your rent agreement and other information such as your past due rent. It also will tell you some of what you need to know about income documents so that you can track those down to be ready to apply, and answers a few frequently asked questions, especially about eligibility and assistance type. We also have one that is Landlords Get Ready. And the Landlords Get Ready checklist, also shown here, is also available now on the RentHelpMN.org website. To the landlords listening today, you can be some of the best partners for your tenants in helping them to get ready. This checklist encourages you to do 3 things. 1, alert your tenants of RentHelpMN. The second, help your tenants be prepared to apply. And the third, get your portion of the documentation ready. A big part of the application for tenants is bringing those documents to show that they are eligible and they have back rent due. And you can make sure they have the most updated paperwork in hand that you control, such as that rent agreement and back due rent. And if you have the resources, you can also help your residents prepare and submit their complete applications. Maybe that's a computer, internet, printing and scanning, or getting some paper applications for residents who aren't comfortable working online. You will also want to get ready yourselves. The payments from RentHelpMN are offered to the landlord to take directly if they're for rent or other landlord charges. So as a business, you will want to be ready to upload your W-9 and other information on your business so that you can accept payment. And for larger management companies, we have an online registration for landlords that you can use to see applications in process and to interact with the system and receive payment. But you'll want to be talking as a larger management company about how your staff will be organized around this registration. Will someone in the central office be doing the registration, or will all of the site staff be doing the registration so that when you are up and running, you have a coordinated approach? And the big question, which is where, of course, we know you are wondering, when will the program open for applications? Let me say it right there. RentHelpMN will open for applications in the coming weeks. And we will open when we know we are ready to accept online applications, process them, and issue payments. You can continue to check the website, RentHelpMN.org, for updates. And the great news is that 211 is ready now and available to take your calls and address your questions on getting ready. When we are open, we will spread the word far and wide that we are open for applications. That will be through emails, social media, radio ads, digital campaigns, direct mailings, and more. But you are here and we have you listening. So I will also say, if you are here just because you want to support your neighbors, your friends, members of your faith community, your tenants, we encourage you to share the materials from RentHelpMN.org. Currently, these include the Get Ready renters, Get Ready for landlords. And once we are open for applications, we will have a social media campaign covering all of the popular platforms, and we hope you will use those messages, amplify them, and share them far and wide. We will also make other marketing materials available for you to share, including a flyer, a poster, a website banner, text messaging, and email scripts. The materials will be available in English, Spanish, Hmong, and Somali. And with that, I will now turn us back to Commissioner Ho.
Well, thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate all the communication with the community. And I understand that Jessica on our team has been reading the chat. And there's a lot of questions about RentHelpMN and how to get ready. So Jessica, do you have a question for me and for Rachel?
Thanks, Commissioner. First question I have is, can residents of public housing or other forms of federal assistance apply for this program? We received that a lot.
The answer is yes, and I'll hand it over to you, Rachel, to talk about the details.
The answer is yes. We know the pandemic has impacted people who live in public housing, Section 8, even with the tenant portion of rent. So yes, you can come in and apply, and the landlords in your buildings are some of the best partners because they understand how to navigate these systems. So we look forward to seeing your applications.
Great.
Follow-up.
Yep.
A follow-up question to that is, if I'm on a waiting list for a Section 8 or public housing, am I still able to apply?
Rachel, give you that one too.
Yes, you are definitely able to apply if you are on a waiting list.
The most important thing would be that you'd have to be able to have a current rental arrangement and in the first phase be behind on your rent and be able to provide some of the documentation that we went over today.
That's correct.
Jessica?
We got several questions on landlord participation. So how can does a landlord need to work with their tenants to apply for this program? How should they work with their tenants to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, we've felt from the very beginning that the best way that this is going to work out is when landlords and tenants are talking to one another and working together to do this, because as Rachel pointed out, there are some documents that we need from the landlord and there are some documents that we need from the tenant. And sometimes if a tenant doesn't have internet connection, the property manager might. So Rachel, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that partnership is really important. And we certainly hope landlords are working with tenants to make them aware of the opportunity, provide resources, but a landlord does not need to participate. So a tenant is the applicant. A tenant can get assistance through 211 through the online application. And if your landlord won't accept payment or isn't responsive when we try to make payment, the funds can go directly to the tenant. And the federal government has made it clear, I won't get into the legalities, but there's an IRS ruling as well, or a letter, that the funds, if they go to the tenant, are not income and do not impact eligibility determinations for federally funded programs. So those were really important aspects of the bill that we appreciate, so that tenants can get assistance regardless of that relationship with the landlord.
But the real win-win here is when landlords and tenants work together, which is why we really hope in the get ready phase, people are talking to each other. Thanks, Jessica. Next question.
Next questions really revolve around unemployment and income. A lot of questions were about people who have experienced unemployment for 90 plus days, as we talked about, yet their income in 2020 was higher than the income eligibility. And so questions from them and others on if they weren't eligible in their 2020 taxed income, could they find another way to be eligible?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's multiple ways to demonstrate, so you don't have to use your taxes. It's just one of the ways to do it. You could actually use your unemployment income weekly statement, right, Rachel?
Yes, there are multiple ways to demonstrate income, and we even make a point in some of the directional text in the application that if your income has decreased, use the current income method. So you come in with documents that show now, your situation now, and what is coming in the door, so that we can look at your eligibility based on the now situation.
Of course, we'll be looking at the whole household, so it's not just an individual, but the whole household. But absolutely go with the now income. I like that phrase, Rachel. I'm going to steal that one. Jessica.
Thank you. We have questions about undocumented immigrants and whether they can have access to the program.
Great question. Rachel?
So the program RentHelpMN does not ask at any time for you to indicate your documentation status as an applicant. We have multiple ways to show identification and demonstrate income so that it will work for everyone. And so this website is set up to work for everyone. We certainly aren't looking for information on immigration status. We're looking to know you're a renter who needs help.
Thanks. Jessica?
Some questions around other assistance that renters may have received from other programs like the COVID Housing Assistance Program or other stimulus funding. First question is, does that count towards the 15-month total potential for funding of this program?
Hey, Rachel, just to keep me on my toes, let me try the answer to that, and you can tell me whether I got it right or wrong.
Okay.
This program stands alone in terms of the timelines, although when we get the next part of federal funding for this program, there's those two programs. So the COVID-19 Housing Assistance Program that we did last year, that's done, and it was a different flavor of money. The program that we're standing up now, RentHelpMN, that's a new start. And for folks who missed the COVID-19 Housing Assistance Program last year, as Rachel said, you can go back and ask for help all the way back to April. But you just want to try not to have confusion about folks that got help before and the new program moving forward. Rachel, anything you'd add to that?
Great work. We call it the clock, the 15-month clock. And the CARES Act COVID Housing Assistance Program, as you said, does not impact that clock for households.
Great. Jessica?
Our next question is on whether this will be taxable on someone's 2021 income. So assistance received, will it be taxable on somebody's income?
That also is a great question. I think there might be a little bit of a work in progress going on related to that for state conformity. Rachel, do you know the answer today, or should we follow up in the FAQs on that?
We can follow up in the FAQ for the federal side. So federal income tax, any program with federal money in it, which covers many programs administered by the state, the bill and the IRS are very clear, not taxable income. If the funds go to the landlord, it's taxable income like business income. But if they go to the household because the landlord is not participating, or the utility provider, whoever is the payee, then they're not taxable. We do have some work to do at the state level that we are working on to make sure that we think about all the implications that households face.
Next question, Jessica.
We have several comments in the chat about tenants who may not be cooperating when a landlord is looking to have the back rent paid. And so some strategies or ideas around how a landlord can work with tenants, just to follow on to our earlier question.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate that there are situations where people aren't talking to each other, because communication is really the best way to resolve this. And we know that the evictions moratorium isn't going to be there forever. And if you don't accept this, you're going to have that debt on your record, and it's going to make it harder when you have to move. Rachel, would you add anything?
No, you did capture it. We really want people to get over any hesitancy and to participate, meaning renters. And so we'll continue to look at what resources we have to help in those situations where the renter isn't communicating and isn't taking the steps to get the assistance.
We're also in dialogue with the courts, who are very interested in understanding how this funding works, because it might be that the moment when the last chance is for that conversation is when you're getting ready to go to housing court. But our message to everybody is now's a good time to talk and get ready. Thanks, Jessica. Next one.
We have some questions about utilities and really want to talk more about the types of utilities that are eligible under the program. And specifically, we had a question on whether internet would be covered.
It's a great question. And I think also one of the things that we've found out is that there's different federal stimulus American Rescue Plan money going for utilities in different places too. So there's a couple different doorways. Because there's an FCC, a federal, oh boy, I stumped myself on the acronym.
Communications. Oh,
Federal
I know this
Communications
somewhere.
Commission, let's go with that. Federal Communications Commission funding stream for internet. We're gonna start there, but I think we just have to see how fast all these monies move. So at the start, we're directing people to the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission's internet assistance help. I think that's $50 a month for eligible households.
Yeah, and for the rest of the utilities, that's any tenant paid utility. So we even listed in the application as gas, energy, power, electric, water and sewer combined, bulk fuels. So people who purchase as tenants, propane, gas, oil, even firewood, we will look at those bills and intend to assist.
Before I hand it back to you, okay, Jasmine got through that list. Great. Jessica.
We have a lot of questions about leases and about the types of leases that we'll be looking for in the program. For example, is a month-to-month lease acceptable? Would we accept a ledger of rent paid? And would we accept an informal lease with a homeowner?
One of the things I think we learned a lot about with the COVID-19 housing assistance program last year is that agreements between renters and landlords take a lot of different forms. So Rachel, can I kick it over to you?
Yes, I would repeat that. Agreements for rent payment take a lot of different forms. I think we've even tried to communicate in the get ready. The document we're looking for isn't necessarily lease. A lease is great, but many have expired and many landlords haven't been doing renewals during the uncertain times we're in. So we're looking for, as the list you just gave us in the question, that's a great list. Those are all examples of ways that a household can come to the table with a piece of paper or an email or a screenshot that shows I rent, I pay rent. And those informal arrangements are really important for us to capture. Great time to call 211, get some help sorting that out if you need it. But if what you're bringing is a piece of paper from your landlord that says, this person lives here, I own the place, here's the rent, that works. And we even provide a template within the application for you to use to have that dialogue with your landlord and get something in writing. And beyond that, we can do much more. So.
Great. Jessica?
Next question, can tenants who have moved out and have back rent due to a landlord still apply to pay for that back rent due?
I know that this is a conversation that's still being discussed out in Washington, D.C., I believe, Rachel.
That's correct. We know that this question has been posed to the regulator, the Treasury. And so we are interested to hear what they say. And then, of course, we'd bring that back and look at what that means programmatically for RentHelpMN.
Unless the U.S. Department of the Treasury affirmatively says we can do it. Right now, the language reads like we can't. So I think it's really important, and that's why we're eager to get this money out there, because it helps both landlords and tenants if they can clear up that back due stuff so that tenants don't leave with a big credit hole and landlords aren't made whole. So we will be keeping an eye on I think Rachel refreshes the U.S. Department of Treasury website once an hour to see if there's any breaking information. But it's a good question, and it's something that we're interested in getting an answer on. Jessica.
A few questions around timeline again, just wanting to confirm how the back rent piece works to start and when we may anticipate moving forward to paying only forward rent.
Well, I think a lot of the moving from phase 1 to phase 2 has to do with how much volume we get in during phase 1, Rachel, is that right?
That's right. So phase one is inviting those who are behind on rent, who face an imminent crisis with of loss of housing, to come and apply and get caught up on that back rent through the period of the pandemic and look at their future rent needs. And then we don't know how many applications we will get. We've heard estimates of how many people are behind, how many renters are behind in the pandemic, and we're ready to meet the estimates. But we do have to process every application, determine eligibility, look at the costs, set up a payment, to get in touch with the landlord to set up a payment. So clearing that backlog, we'll have a better sense once we're open of how long that will take. And then we will estimate and run the projections, get ourselves a go date for future rent only applications.
This is a good time for me to re-emphasize a point I think that you made earlier, which is that we're getting a lot of money from the federal government to run this program. And so it's not like you have 24 hours to sign up the day we open. We're going to have funding possibly all the way through 2021 and into 2022. So I know folks are feeling a lot of stress. It's a stressful situation when you can't make rent, but I hope folks take the time to get ready and just know that it might take us a little while to get through those initial applications, but we're going to have better tools than we had with the last program so that you or the people that are helping you can keep track of the status of your application. And we'll need to clear that initial wave of applications before we open it up to the next group. But we do anticipate getting there. We'll just have to see the numbers when they come in. Thanks, Jessica.
We have some broad questions about our equity priorities. I'm wondering if you could discuss that further.
Sure. I think one of the things that COVID has reinforced for those of us who have worked with low-income families experiencing homelessness, kind of reinforced for all to see, is that the economic impacts of COVID don't hit people equally. I'm in my own home. I didn't lose my job. I've been able to keep up with my mortgage payments. But a lot of folks who have lost their jobs were already the very low-wage workers. And we know a lot of low-wage workers come from Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color. So really thinking about the difference between people who have high-speed internet, I'm talking to you through it right now, and people who don't have internet access, people who have smartphones, and people who don't have smartphones, people who have English as their first language or are used to going online and buying something or signing up for something versus people who aren't. So we're really trying to make sure that we're paying attention to the people where going online and just doing all the documents themselves. I mean, I even have a scanner in my home office. So there's things that are available to me that I'm used to using. And that's why it's so important that we have these field partners and community partners who are going to be able to be the assist. And it's why I'm so happy to be working with 211 because they'll be able to talk people through the process on the phone and help out as well. Rachel, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I appreciate the question because the federal government both gave us rules and flexibility and how we set up RentHelpMN. And we've used that flexibility to work to maximize really meeting people where they're at and having that customer experience, someone in stress, be the best we could make it, minimizing documentation, maximizing the list of acceptable documents, and creating the wraparound infrastructure with 211 and the community and field partners so that nobody gives up. We want people to get access to this rent assistance, and we're not creating artificial limits or otherwise restricting the use of the funds in that equitable lens as well.
Thanks. Jessica?
Question about, could you please confirm your statement earlier about sending money directly to a tenant and how that process works?
Rachel, I'm going to give this back to you because you said it the first time, so I won't mix it up with saying it in my own words.
Well, I will try to do better. The, uh, this is straight from the federal bill, but the funds must first be offered to who they're due to. So the payee, which is the landlord, if it's rent or fees, or the utility company, if it's utilities. And so we, in the background, our staff, work on making those payments directly to the person who is owed the funds. And if they refuse to accept the funds, then it becomes possible to pay straight to the tenant. Or if they're non-responsive, there's a waiting period, which of course adds delays, adds stress. We wish there were no waiting period, but that is a federal requirement. And so again, we work to pay the landlord, and that's our job, not yours. But we go out and we work on getting them paid. And if they won't take the funds or don't respond, then the funds can go to the tenant, again, for that rent assistance. And there are some protections around federal income tax and federally backed programs available as well.
Thanks. Jessica?
Does the tenant need to supply documentation showing proof of being impacted by COVID, or is it just self-reported?
Rachel, this one's yours.
Yes, we are accepting as self-reporting. For that, the federal government gave us that opportunity, and we provide in the application examples as well as an open field for households to share nothing private, like private medical information, but to share generally how COVID has created hardship and housing instability. And I think people who are in a rent crisis, facing the loss of their housing, it's not hard to find the right checkbox. So no pieces of paper are needed there.
Great. Jessica?
Talk about income a little bit more. Please repeat the 80% area median income limit, whether there's an appeals process, and tell us about what the origin of that income limit is, whether it's the federal government and how strictly it will be enforced.
Thanks. And while Rachel's pulling up that, I'll say this is a federal requirement from the Congress, and we'll be accountable to the U.S. Department of the Treasury to do that. Area median income is a calculation that is used for some programs, more often for housing assistance than, for example, a Department of Human Services program where it might be based on the federal poverty level. And so the standard is up to 80% of area median income. Just to make it a little bit more complicated, it varies by county. And so I think, Rachel, your examples were one of the counties in Minnesota with the lowest area median income and the metro area, which has some of the highest.
That's right. We have this also in the Get Ready for Tenants document on RentHelpMN.org. But just directionally, one can call 211 and they can find the exact chart for where you live. And in the online application, it's one of the first things that comes up. And if you believe that your income is within those limits, keep going, get through the application and provide documents. So in Aitkin County, which has some of the lowest, shares the lowest incomes with another county in the state, for one person, that would be an income below $40,700. And it goes up from there. I don't have the table in front of me. And then in the metro, which covers a pretty large area out into the counties and suburbs, the one person limit, the upper limit, is $54,950. For 4 people in a household, it's $78,500.
One of the things we learned with our last program is that really it is, it's people who have lost their jobs or have lost hours or are in jobs that are low-wage workers that came to us for help. The vast majority of folks who came to us for help with our last program were well within those limits. And so I think that that's really who has been kind of hurt by the economic impacts of COVID. But that's why 211 and the other helpers are out there. And you can always just go search for your county area median income and see that by household size, because that does change based on the number of people in your home. Jessica.
The renter who gets assistance have to repay the assistance to the government.
I am not certain I understand the question. Rachel, do you understand the question? It's not a loan. It's going to take care of your past due stuff. It's not a loan.
Yes, this is stimulus funds intended to stabilize renters and rental markets. And it is a grant to Minnesota Housing in our paperwork and assistance to the households.
Just like those stimulus checks that the federal government has been doing. That's money to take care of people during the crisis. Next question.
Can a local HUD office or other organization help residents navigate this process?
Boy, we love helpers. Helpers, helpers, helpers. Churches can help their congregations. Barbers can help their clients. Family members can help family members. Local community action agencies, local counties can help people. So yes, that's why the Get Ready information is out there, so that people can reach a broad audience, get the word out, and help people get ready. Rachel, you want to add anything?
I would say we like the helpers. Your property management and landlord may be that helper, but certainly just coming to 211 and navigating through that resource as well is a great place to get started.
Jessica.
One more question on the back rent piece. Would April 2021 be considered back rent for somebody who would be applying to the program at that time?
I'm going to take a guess that the answer is yes, but Rachel, you probably know the answer to that. If it's because we're not going to be up and running on April 1st, so April rent will be due. And if you haven't been able to pay it, that would be an eligible expense.
That's correct. Yes, the math is pretty simple on that one.
Great. Next one.
We have many who are asking now, when and how do I apply? So if we could just give a summary on what's next.
So today, if you go to RentHelpMN.org, you'll find information about how to get ready. We are building the system with a lot of partners, and we hope to launch it in the coming weeks, but we won't turn it on until we're confident it's going to work well for Minnesotans. So stay tuned. And I think, as Rachel said, we will spread the message everywhere that you would have heard about this. We'll be talking to the media. We'll be talking to our partners. We will get the word out, and we'll keep getting the word out, because it's not a limited window for getting in the door. This is gonna have the second phase, and we believe that it's going to be operating quite a ways through the year. So you can also just keep an eye on RentHelpMN.org, because on the day we launch, there'll be a big button there that says apply here. And that's when we will have flipped the switch from get ready to apply now. Want to add anything, Rachel?
No, we just want to keep making that point. If you are in the grocery store, when you get the message that we are open, don't drop your groceries and run to the computer. You know, if you're getting ready, that's great, but take your time. There's not a need to be online the moment we open to get access. We have a good amount of funds, and we're going to make sure we get to everyone.
This is not a lottery. This is not a lottery. This is a large federal stimulus help with rent. So get ready, but stay calm. Jessica.
Can we, as a homeowner, apply for this program?
The Congress was really clear that this is for renters, not homeowners. But the good news is, in the American Rescue Plan that passed earlier in March, there is a new federal program that is targeted at homeowner assistance. We are still awaiting more guidance from the U.S. Department of Treasury on how that'll work. So it's going to come a little later. We don't even have enough details yet on it to be doing the behind the scenes work, even though we're certainly talking to critical partners about how that might look based on what we've done in the past. So this one's for renters. The Congress was really clear, but there's help on the way from the March stimulus that's targeted specifically at homeowners. I'm aware of the time, Jessica, so if we can do some lightning round questions here, Rachel and I will try to be brief in our answers so that we can get through a few more.
We are near the end of our questions. One follow-up on the back rent piece. If a tenant comes in to apply for back rent, are they at that time able to apply for the 3 months of forward rent as well?
Rachel.
Yes, and we encourage you to do so. If you're coming in for back rent, ask for those forward 3 months so that you have to ask. So ask for the forward 3. We even say, don't forget, ask if you have a reasonable expectation you'll continue to live in that home at that rent amount, then we can go ahead and process, and that'll help us as we continue to clear that backlog. We know that you're cared for a few months in your fears of being able to pay. And so you can come back every 3 months, and this is the federal bill, and request additional 3 months of assistance. It comes at the beginning, not at the end. So once you're in that future rent payment period, you don't have to wait to get behind. We would begin payments ahead of when rent is due.
This is a really unique attribute for a federal program. I don't think I've ever operated something that worked quite like this, but I had an opportunity to talk to some folks in Congress who worked on the language of this bill. And they said that this provision is to help landlords know that there's going to be some stability in the coming months too, so that you can try to keep those relationships in place while the evictions moratorium and the pandemic and everything else is working its way through time. So it's an exciting feature. Jessica, I think 1 or 2 more.
Will late fees be covered, or what other sorts of fees?
Rachel, yes, the answer is yes, but Rachel, want to say more?
Yes, late fees. We're working through a few more little details right down to the wire on how we would get those documented and figured out, but reasonable fees charged by your landlord and other fees, essentially if it's related to your housing stability, send it in. We will look at it and determine what we can do.
Jessica.
And final question, how will we hear when the program is live?
You'll hear it on the radio, you'll hear it on TV, you'll read about it in the newspaper. The governor and lieutenant governor will talk about it. You can go to RentHelpMN.org. Please don't go every day this week. It's not going to be up this week. So just need to say that to folks. We need a little bit more time to get the system working, but we are working with marketing partners. We're working with other folks that are involved in this to get the word out, and it's a lot of money. So we're going to be talking really loudly about its availability. We want every Minnesotan who's eligible to know it's out there and get help. Jessica, is that it?
That's it. Thank you.
Rachel, kind of what's the bottom line here? What's the key message that you want folks to take away from today's event?
I want them to know to get ready. We know we are moving toward the go live day, so use the resources, get ready, start planning, and spread the word. And we look forward to getting this assistance out.
I think I would say that this is going to work best when tenants and landlords are working together on this. So that's really important. And I'll just finish by saying in advance, thank you to the helpers. I know that there are many people, neighborhood groups, community organizations, faith communities, many people that are going to help us get people connected so that folks can have this taken care of. So thank you. I have the feeling that you stayed with us until 6 o'clock tonight because you are one of the helpers. And so I just want to thank you. But since it is 6 o'clock at night, we promised to end on time. Rachel, Jessica, everybody who helped put this together, thank you to you too. Help is on the way, so get ready.
Thank you.